Yes, it really did because it gave me discipline
Mm,
and it taught me how to focus on a goal and stick with it. Because like I said, the military wasn't easy. You have the weight issues and different personalities and different views that people have of who they want to be in their leadership. And I had to go through all that and going through it gave me the tenacity to continue to fight for what I wanted. And what I wanted was to retire. So
mm.
no matter what, I got to that point. And no matter what happened, I had that focus that I was going to retire. I wasn't going to let nothing stop me, and that's so it gave me the strength to have a goal and work towards it.
And make it happen.
Yes.
That's awesome. Cause yeah, I was in another interview recently talking about one of the things you mentioned, the weigh-in, and how that can become just a whole thing of itself, where someone was talking about how you can get into really bad habits from there, like binge eating, starving yourself, all kinds of stuff to make weigh-in. My name is Marquetta. All righty, welcome to She Served Sheroes, the podcast. We are very excited today to have with us author and veteran, Miss Mattie Leonard. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So we like to start with asking everyone the same question. How did your military journey begin and what made you sign the dotted line? What made you sign up to join the military?
Well, I had been in an abusive relationship and we got divorced. And my dad, who had been in the military, he had retired. He has since passed away 2 years ago, but he had retired from the military, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And so I joined the military
Okay, well, I'm very so sorry for your loss. So, but also, and what branch did your dad serve in?
at the Army.
Okay, awesome. And then what branch did you join?
I served the Army as
So you
well.
did. You followed right behind dad in his footsteps as well. That is awesome. And how long did you serve?
I served 20 years.
Awesome. And was
Yes,
that active duty?
it was active duty.
Okay, so you left an abusive relationship and
Yes.
went into the military. And so how was that journey?
It was kind of hard as a Black woman, during that time. A lot of positions wasn't really available for us, but I was able to work myself up. I got recruited to work in the White House,
Okay.
in White House Communication Agency under President Bush and President Obama. And then my last year in the military, I worked as the non-commissioned officer in charge of the Situation Room.
Okay. Wow. So that's quite an accomplishment, a lot handling right there in DC. And then what about, because a lot of times we talk about the transition, all of a sudden 20 years is a long time. And then all of a sudden one day everything is just changed. Life is completely different. What was that like for you once you transitioned out of the military?
It was really hard because I that last year I injured my lower back um,
Mm,
lifting equipment filled boxes, and the doctor put me on opiates. So upon retiring, I was addicted to pain pills.
wow.
Hey there, Sheroes. We're cooking up something special for you, just as promised. To all who are attending the Women's Veteran Engage Conference in Las Vegas, get ready for a night of healing and empowerment like no other. Introducing Heal and Flow, a night of movement, an exclusive bonus event sponsored by Veteran Social Club. Join us at the Craft Motions on Friday, April 26th for an exhilarating evening of therapeutic movement. Release stress, build confidence, and connect with fellow veterans in a welcoming and supportive environment. Whether you're new to these activities or a seasoned pro, there's something for everyone at Heal and Flow. Register now for the Women's Veteran Engage Conference and secure your spot at Heal and Flow, a night of movement with She Serves Sheroes, sponsored by Veterans Social Club.
And I couldn't work. I was disabled. And that journey was really hard. I was depressed and struggling with my identity. Coming out of the military, everything is pretty much told to you. You have goals set that you can achieve, but when you get out, it's like, what do I do now? Where am I going? Who am I now? There's no one to tell me. There's no goal set for me. And being a disabled veteran, that transition was very hard. And I sunk deeper into my addiction, trying to cover up the pain of being hurt, cover up the pain of being out of the military and not able to work. So it was a hard transition.
Okay, got you. So we said that once you got out of the military, you were already on pain pills. They introduced you to opioids, which turned into an addiction. And so when you got out of the military, you couldn't work, you're on pain pills. And so you don't have this every day someone's telling you exactly what to do, or you're telling someone exactly what to do. All of that structure, everything is gone. So when you found yourself in that space, what did you do and how were you able to move forward?
It took me a long time. I started doing street drugs, and my addiction got worse. And I ended up in jail 3 times. I had 2 DWIs, a felony possession charge, and I had ended up in the psych ward a couple of times. And that last time that I went to jail, I was in solitary confinement. And that was like my bottom. That was the turning point that told me, you need to change. You're going in the wrong direction. And I started journaling while I was in the jail. And there was this other girl, this other inmate that was in the jail, and she would write short stories, and we would read them to pass time away. And we would add something that we wanted, an event or something that we wanted to hear about in her short story, and she would write it and then pass it to us, and we would read it. And that's what passed the time away, and that's what also opened the door to saying that maybe I can write. I can write about this situation. I can write about how I got out of my drug addiction. But it took me a while to get free of drugs. And I was court ordered to go to Narcotics Anonymous. And that's when I really started to dig deep and start working on myself, and start doing the things that needed to be done in order to recover.
Now, did that happen through Veterans Court? Were you going through Veterans Court?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. And so, but you did work on your rehabilitation. Were there any veteran services that you used during that time that helped you during that? Or was this all outside?
It was all outside. I did start going to counseling at the VA.
Okay.
Group therapy and different because when you use, it's like you forget how to live. You forget how to be a social person without using drugs. And it was like I had to learn all over again how to be that person that can have a conversation, or that person that can be in a relationship without the use of drugs.
Got you. So how long were you out of the service? And, I know you went to you went to a dark space, but then you started journaling, you started reading the short stories, and that was inspiring you. How long was it from the time you got out through that space of life until you started saying, okay, this is how I'm moving forward?
It was about 2 years.
Okay, because a lot of us, that's where I find a lot of the gap, where women kind of really need to hear. There might be some times where things are dark and you feel alone, or we fall into different patterns or behaviors, but that's not the end of your story. And oftentimes when we talk about, retiring and this, that, the other, people feel like, well, I'm just done, or this is just where I'm at now. So again, She Searched Sheroes, we like to amplify the stories and journeys of women of color veterans and speak specifically to that space and transition, so that anyone that's listening, if they are in that low space, they can come right back out and move forward and tell their story the way that they want their story to be told. So how did you start your path as an author? I mean, so we know that you were hearing the short stories and you were adding, but then what?
When I got out, while I was in, I started thinking about different stories I could write and tell about that dealt with my life. And so my first book I wrote was Building Me Back Brick by Brick. It's this book here. It's about my struggle with addiction and how I got to a point of recovery. So I go through the steps of being an addict, trying to turn my life around, and then in the process of being a recovered addict, and the steps that I took and what I did to maintain my clean time.
That's awesome. And then that's not the only book that you have, correct?
Right. And I have Silent Cry, this one, which is about my journey through domestic violence and abuse. And I talk about different scenarios of abuse, like coercion, stalking. I dealt with all those things in different relationships. So it's not just one relationship that I talk about in that book. It's several relationships that deal with domestic violence and abuse. Because one thing that we tend to do, it tends to be a pattern, because we were not taught how to pick productive people. We were not taught how to, those feelings of abandonment or rejection. And when somebody gives us all this attention, we look towards them. We gear towards them and not seeing the red flags. So I point out the red flags that we have to be more cognitive of.
Awesome. And so getting back to your work and your process through writing these books. So you mentioned that you were doing therapy at the VA, you were doing the NA meetings, and then how did that really grow into, who you are and where you are today?
Working the steps in the NA program, doing service work. I go to the rehabs and talk to the women there. Every first Saturday, I go to the prison in Gatesville in Texas and talk to the women there. So it's about giving back and getting out of yourself and trying to help those that may be going through this situation, or to help people who are trying to help someone that's going through that situation.
Got you. And so are you an entrepreneur as well?
I consider myself an entrepreneur as far as writing.
Right.
That's what I do, is I write books.
And right now you're on your third book.
I'm on my third book.
All right.
It's called Trauma.
Okay.
It's dealing with healing from trauma and the baggage of your life. Because we tend to, like I was telling you about the resentment, the anger, the abandonment issues, all those things we keep in our lives, and they project onto other people in our relationships going further. So we got to we don't get rid of them, but we learn how to deal with them, because our past don't define us, and we have to remember that we can be whoever we say we want to be. We can set goals, and we can be aspiring to other people. It's not about it's not about me or you. It's about reaching back and giving back to other people.
Absolutely. So I know that you are in the jails helping and also with meetings. Do you find any work in your the work that you're on with veteran women specifically?
Not as yet. I'm trying. I'm new in being an author, and I'm new at speaking at different locations. So it's kind of hard to find places that I can go and share. But when I do find them, I do go and talk to people about my situation. I'm currently in a women's group at the VA, and I talked to them about my books, and a couple of them said that they would, read it, and that's a start. Letting people know that I'm available.
Yeah.
Is what I can do.
Sharing stories, being in the spaces, absolutely, and making the connections and networking. So, are there any veteran resources as an author that you've tapped into yet?
No, not as yet.
Okay, well then we definitely want to make sure that you are tuned in to the She Serves Sheroes network and community, because there are so many resources out there for us. And I'm sure that there is a lot of support you can find. So with your publishing, are you self-publishing or do you have a publisher?
I have a publisher.
Okay, are you on Amazon at all?
I'm on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart,
Everywhere.
Goodreads.
Awesome. And how could someone that's in the community right now, which we're not cutting you short at all, I just want to know, how could someone that's hearing your story right now, how can they find you? How can they find your books? I know you just said you're everywhere, but yeah, how would they find you?
Like I said, on those websites, or I have a website, is www.mattieleonard.com. And I sell my books on there. I sell signed copies on my website, but you can go to the different websites and look my book up.
That's awesome. Congratulations for that. And just the work that you're doing in your own life, and then sharing that and helping other women to heal as well. And you're still in groups as well. So now people can hear right from you and at the VA and such like that. So where are, I saw, like, I was looking at one of your signings on your website, and it looked like maybe you were at like not a VA, but on a base is where I was thinking.
Yes, I was at the PX in Fort Cavazos.
Awesome. Yeah. So you do that as well. You go sometimes out to the BX on base so that people can have like signings and meet you in person?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yes. Got you. And so we do talk about resources along the way. Are there any resources that weren't veteran connected that you found just to help you along your journey?
Narcotics Anonymous, church.
Yeah. Well, like if somebody wanted to get published, if they were an author, how did you go about that, finding that path?
Well, actually what I did, I have some videos on my Facebook page. Right. It's Mattie.e.Leonard. And I posted videos about how I went about writing my books. So they can go on my Facebook page and see those videos.
Awesome. Good deal. So we can find, and you said you're speaking as well. So you're a publisher, but now we're getting in the realm of being a speaker as well?
Yes, that's one of my goals.
Is to start speaking. And what are your topics, basically?
About addiction and recovery, and about domestic violence and abuse.
You said that's one of your goals. You're already in prisons talking to women. It sounds like that's one of your doings, not one of your goals.
Well, I want to I want to be a well-known author. I want to be out there where people are, if I post something, they're like, oh, I know that author. I want to be a well-known author. I want to be on TV speaking engagements. That's my goal. Right now I'm local, and that's okay, because being local is what's going to help me start getting my foot in the right place and getting me in the right space of different people. So
absolutely. And I thank you for putting yourself out there with us as well. How did you hear if She Served Sheroes?
On Facebook.
You found us on Facebook?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, I think a lot of it is just community. I know I talk about in my story a lot how community saved my life. It really has, and networking. And so I know that I go out to try to find the community that's going to feed me and that speaks to me. And for myself personally, the women veteran community has been a lot for me. And so, my work is for veteran women of color specifically. So I think, us getting out there and networking and communicating with each other, that's definitely helpful as well. We definitely want to know about everything that you're doing in our community. And you posted your book. So we definitely appreciate that as well. But yeah, so is that what you're working on right now, is networking and getting out there more?
Yes, that's my focus right now, is trying to be known, and to be a conduit for those issues that I've been talking about, the addiction and recovery, and domestic violence and abuse, and also in the future, trauma, healing from trauma in your life.
Right. That's what you said, that's the book that you're working on now. And so, which trauma can lead to some of these other issues that you're talking about as well. Yes. So is that kind of what kind of trauma are you talking about in this new book that we can look forward to?
Trauma of, anger, resentment, dealing with the, abuse in your life, and the fear that we have that dictate who we associate with, who we talk to, who who we have a relationship with. Trying to, I give the scenario of a backpack, and okay, it's full of rocks, and rocks of anger, resentment, fear, loneliness, all those things. And what we need to do is take those rocks out one at a time and throw them out, and that backpack begins to be lighter, and we can walk a lot further without those baggage. We don't see those baggage, but they're there. And that's the scenario that I give, is having a backpack full of that trauma and that baggage that you went through, that you're still harboring in your today's life. You don't realize how much it affected, and maybe you do realize it. And we need to address it so that we can move on and work on being a better and productive person in this society.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? They can they know that they have the heaviness is there. Like you said, the backpack, they can feel way down, but sometimes you just don't even know where to turn or what the first step is. What would you say to someone that's, trying to get that weight off their backpack?
And that's what I talk about in the book Trauma, that I'm trying to get published now. I start off by saying we have to acknowledge the trauma, figure out what the trauma is that we went through. We have to drug up those memories that we don't want to talk about. Once we do that, we have to list our trauma, and then try to turn the perspective around on that trauma. Find your part in that trauma. A lot of times we're always just blaming somebody else, but we have a part in that trauma as well. And so finding your part in that trauma, and then once you do that, then you start healing from it. You start letting go of that trauma when you see that it was the past, and sometimes it could be in your future. It could be in your present. But you learn how to let loose of it. And I talk about those steps in my book, Trauma.
And do you feel like now, I know that this what you're doing now as an author is not necessarily military related, but how do you feel like your time in the military helped you to who you are today to become this author?
Yes, it really did, because it gave me discipline,
Mm.
and it taught me how to focus on a goal and stick with it. Because like I said, the military wasn't easy. You have the weight issues, and different personalities, and different views that people have of who they want to be in their leadership. And I had to go through all that, and going through it gave me the tenacity to continue to fight for what I wanted, and what I wanted was to retire. So no matter what, I got to that point, and no matter what happened, I had that focus that I was going to retire. I wasn't going to let nothing stop me, and that's, so it gave me the strength to have a goal and work towards it
And make it happen.
Yes.
That's awesome. Because I was in another interview recently talking about one of the things you mentioned, the weigh-in, and how that can become just a whole thing of itself, where someone was talking about how you can get into really bad habits from there, like binge eating, starving yourself, all kinds of stuff to make weigh-in. So you can actually be, in many ways, accumulating trauma just while you're in your military experience. And a lot of times as women, we're kind of told to suck it up, and get yourself together. So, how were you able to work through some of those things? You said no matter what, you knew that you were going to retire. So it sounds like you dealt with some obstacles that were trying to keep you from that goal.
Yes. And you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the weigh-ins, because I went through colonics, went to a weight management doctor, used to wrap my stomach with styrofoam, what is that?
Cellophane.
Cellophane, yeah. All those things, trying to stand taller, all
anything,
trying to keep the weight. And it was stressful at times, it was stressful. And I don't think they have that much of a weight situation these days, because I've seen a lot of heavy people in the military. So I don't know what the standard is now, but it was pretty strict back then.
Right. And those were obstacles that you had to actually overcome to keep moving forward. That could stop you from making rank. That could stop you from, so many things, that it's not like this is not just a small thing trying to, make weight. Like you said, these are things that can make you lose your job. And your goal was to retire.
Yes.
So you had in your mind, no matter what comes my way, I'm making it to the finish line.
Yes. Yes.
And then making it to that finish line gave you the tenacity, you're saying, to now, as an author, you can figure it out, you can make it happen, and you have that determination, drive, goal, and you're a leader, so you can kind of do it within yourself.
Yes, exactly.
That is awesome. That's super exciting. We're really happy to hear about what you have going on, and then just sharing that healing with others, because of course, you're not the only woman that has come across these things. And especially as a veteran, I thank you for your transparency to say that you had dealt with street drugs. One of our interviews that we did last season, there's a woman in Texas named Marsha Martin. She has a nonprofit called You Are Still a Veteran, where she works specifically with veterans that have been incarcerated. And I had never heard of anyone that worked with that demographic before specifically. So again, with yourself saying that, I got this addiction in the military, first of all, period. Start there. And then it followed me outside. I really thank you for sharing that, because like I said, you're not the only one to have that story. So I know that, anyone that's hearing, you're also helping to heal them as well.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. So what were the pain and different, you said your lower back is where the problem had started.
Yes.
Was that?
Go ahead.
No, I want to go ahead.
Yeah, I was lifting equipment filled boxes, and I had a sharp pain go down my leg. So it was that sciatic nerve. And then I had a herniated disc. So I was actually put in a wheelchair because I couldn't move. I couldn't
Mm.
walk on my own. I eventually got out of the wheelchair, but I mean, we tried so many different things: chiropractor, acupuncture, um, pool therapy, regular therapy. It was so many things that I tried until now I got to the point where I get steroid injections in my back
Mm.
every 3 months. If I don't get them, my ability to walk is very debilitating.
Got it. And so that's something that you have to endure and still work through.
Yes, yes.
Got you. Is there anything that, because also when you said you tried everything, sometimes, we just go with what's told to us. So it sounds like you did some advocating for yourself as well.
Yes, yes. I had to keep, because I knew I didn't want to go back to drugs, and drugs was not the solution. So I had to fight with those doctors and say, look, I'm hurting. I'm disabled. What can we do to help me in this situation? I know the pain's not going to be gone totally, but what can we do to minimize it without the use of drugs? And it was, and once you have that that mark of being an addict in the military, not necessarily in the military, but in the hospitals, they're more reluctant to help you.
Mm.
It's like, we don't want to give you anything. Well, I'm not asking you to give me anything. I'm asking you to help me figure out a different solution. What else can I do? What else can I go through in order to get a little bit of relief so that I could be a functioning person, and it took some going back and forth, even with mental health, having mental health issues, because I'm dual diagnosis. So dual diagnosis is an addiction and having a mental health condition that needs to be treated and medicated. And I had to come to terms with that because, back in the military, back when I was in, going to a psychiatrist wasn't looked good on.
Right.
And so I had to endure a lot of things by myself, and it hindered me a lot in many areas in my life. So now that I go to counselors and and they're more apt to help you if you are persistent in getting the help that you need.
Yeah, so advocating for yourself, it's very important. And just because you're told one in no area, you still have to look for an answer in another area to get what it is that you need for self.
Yes.
Because we have to best take care of ourselves.
Yes, it's about self-care. Self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm glad to hear, just your whole journey and what you experienced and just your transparency. Again, you're not the only one to have a dual diagnosis or to just face different adversities, but how you've done it on your own, it's kind of like when you share your story, then other people can have help and they're not as alone. It takes a lot of strength to get through things on your own. So I really want to applaud you as well to say that, which what you said is absolutely correct. If you try to go to mental health while you're in, that's not necessarily encouraged. And you don't want, to have these stigmas and things on your record. But then if you need help, who are you supposed to ask if where you're supposed to go to get help is frowned upon? So yeah, working through that, and that just adds to the pressure, and we get to our breaking points. So I'm glad that you have advocated for yourself in that aspect as well. So I'm a big person on mental health, period. Once I started therapy, it is just it's like really like they say, having a toolbox. I have all these tools to help me in different areas of my life. And so what are some tools that maybe you like to highlight for people that have been down a similar path, as they're building themselves up?
First you have to accept yourself right where you're at. Accept the past, the present, and the future. You have to start taking care of yourself, getting out of bed, taking your medicine, reading, doing stuff, going outside, getting some air, doing some exercise. You have to start taking care of yourself and doing things that are going to get you out of that mood, out of that depressive state that you're in. And you got to seek help. It's nothing wrong with seeking help. You just have to be focused on trying to be a whole person. And they say 2 halves make a whole. Well, no, 2 wholes make a whole. Yeah, and that's what I had to I had that willingness to let because the past, like I said, does not define you. It does not have to define you. What you went through does not have to dictate where you're going to go in your next step or your next journey in life.
Yes.
I had to learn to make the necessary changes in my life so that I could be a better person for myself first and then for others.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate that, the work that you're doing, that you're giving back, especially through the things that you've been through, to those same people. And so those are the people that we just help and heal along our journey. And for myself, like we said here at She Serves Sheroes, we want to highlight and spotlight these women that are in the trenches doing the work. You could have come to yourself, healed yourself, and been like, you know what, this is my story. But instead, you're out here sharing your story, writing books, and helping other people to overcome as well. So I just want to thank you, give you your flowers for the work that you are doing. And you said, I know that your platform will grow and grow, but you're a published author, you are speaking, you're doing the work out there in the trenches. And so we just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go, I want to make sure there's nothing I didn't cover. I want to make sure that you can, say anything that you would like to share with us, as well as, I know you already gave us your website, but again, making sure people know how to reach out to you and get your story.
Okay. My Facebook page is Mattie, Mattie.E.Leonard, Leonard. And my website is www.mattieleonard.com. So it's MATTIELEONARD.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And we will be on the lookout for trauma. Will you be giving us some maybe little tidbits or spillers we could look forward to, or you put videos on your Facebook we could look forward to?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. And we also want to know what's going on with you with the She Serves Sheroes community. So just like how you dropped that line for us now, we hope to stay connected with you. We want to know what's going on, and we want to be here to support and cheer you along the way.
Thank you so much.
So I thank you so much for being here on the She Serves Sheroes podcast. We will be looking forward to everything that Mattie has going on. And again, is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap?
Stay focused, take care of yourself, and the sky's the limit.
Amen. I believe that too. Well, Mattie, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We are very excited about what you are doing. Thank you for your transparency. It takes guts to actually put yourself out there. And I just really know and believe to be true that as we share our story, we are definitely healing others.
Yes, I believe that too.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Mattie. And we will see you soon.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.